Hey, Megan, thanks for coming, and thanks for being our guest on Gemini Live. I really appreciate it.
Gemini Live, I love it. Thanks for having me.
Thanks. So, a couple of questions. The first one I like to ask for a lot of attorneys is, how did you get into work comp? Because it seems like nobody comes out of law school and says, boy, I really want to get into work comp. They kind of fall into it. So I wonder what your story is.
Oh, yeah. I have the same story. I went to law school in Idaho, and I decided to come back to California, which is where I'm from. And I was just trying to find a job. I was pounding the pavement. I was applying for every single job. And I applied for a workers' comp job in Central Valley, which is where I'm from. And they called me for an interview. I didn't really know if I wanted to do workers' comp, but I loved the people that I interviewed with.
Yeah.
David Rockwell, Jeff Duarte, Sharon Kelly. I just knew I wanted to work for them, and I was like, I don't know if I like workers' comp. I'll give it a couple years, but they hired me, and here we are, like 8 years later, and I love it. I love my job. I love workers' comp.
And you can tell that you do, which is pretty cool. So, so you have a session where you're a panelist.
Yes.
Why don't you tell me a little bit about the session?
Yeah. So this panel is called the Most Important Cases Panel, the Marvin Shapiro Memorial Most Important Cases Panel. And I really love this panel. What we do is we talk about kind of like important cases that have come out in the last 6 months, because we meet every 6 months for convention. So we give this case law update, and it really is a lot of practice tips for people. These are the cases you need to know. We have a judge. We have a lot of really experienced, great people who they're like little encyclopedias of case law. So it's really fun to learn from them.
So who decides which of the cases are the most important cases? And are they ones that are just causing precedent? Do you find out which ones are most cited?
Yeah,
How do you figure it out?
It's a collaborative effort. We each summarize cases, and it kind of changes how many we summarize. It depends on what's coming out in those 6 months. Judge Casey, she kind of picks her own materials, and a lot of times she gives really practical tips, like things that she's seeing happen in her courtroom. So that's always really helpful. If there are any new developments on important issues like apportionment or 100% cases, those cases typically get discussed and summarized. I personally love practical tips, so if there's something that could help me with getting a panel QME, right, or apportionment or temporary disability, something like that, then those are cases that I tend to pick.
Sure. And how long have you been doing the most important cases?
Gosh, I think I've been doing the most important cases since maybe 2018.
Wow.
Maybe I think it was 2018.
Wow. Okay. So you've given a lot of tips over the last few years.
Yeah, I really enjoy being the moderator. And when you're on a panel, you learn so much. Every time I start summarizing cases, I'm immediately finding stuff that I can use in my practice. So on a little selfish note, it's been very beneficial for me in my practice.
Wonderful.
So I love it.
Wonderful. So I'm going to switch gears a little bit. So obviously this whole COVID pandemic and the work from home situation has affected firms dramatically and in many different ways. So I wanted to find out, has your firm been work from home the whole time, or is it a mix, or how are you guys dealing with it?
Yeah, it's been a mix. In the early part of the pandemic, I guess through June of last year, June of 2021, we pretty much had our entire staff working from home. They rotate in on different days, so we kept our numbers down in the office, and they come in to do things like
mail and scanning.
Printing out mail to put in envelopes and things like that. Now pretty much everyone is back in the office, but we have some flexibility. We want people to work from home if they're not feeling well. I personally work from home 3 out of 5 days a week. I love working from home. So that's kind of where we are right now.
So were you already set up to work from home, or was it a big deal to get systems in place in order to be able to do that?
So fortunately, we had switched to a cloud-based case management system,
Fantastic.
and that made things a lot easier. So it was really just making sure that everyone had the right technology at home, a computer and things like that. But they were able to just log into the case management system really easily, and so that made that work from home transition a lot easier.
Yes.
There were other systems that we had to figure out, like how are we going to deal with getting the mail scanned in or phone call, and we've made updates to our own technology, which has been kind of a great joy for me. Like that was really fun. I had maybe plans for updating technology that I thought would take a very long time to implement, and it all just came
look,
in right
we got to do
there.
this now. Shucks,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Yeah. Awesome. That's great. So the other question that I like to ask a lot of attorneys, it seems that the number of injuries that people are going to doctors and hospitals for has gone down significantly since 2019. Are you finding that in your practice as well, or has it gotten back up to where it was?
Yeah, I think there was a big lull, right, where either people were working from home and not getting injured, not working at all and not getting injured, or if they were working, they were afraid to lose their job, and so they weren't filing their claims. So I know that in 2020 we did see a major reduction in claims. I'm not sure what the numbers are for 2021, but in our own practice, we definitely saw that dip, and it has picked up, I would say, significantly. So it seems like people are getting back to the way that it was before.
Well, that's good. And one final question for you. So what does Megan Rubel like to do in her free time?
Yes. Okay, this was my requested question. Gosh, I love being outdoors. That's my favorite thing.
Yeah.
I'm going to go for a long run on Saturday after the classes are over. So lately I've been really into ultra running. The longest distance I've run is 66 miles.
Wow.
It took me like 17 hours. It was a really long day. It was 104 degrees out.
Wow.
Yeah, it was gnarly. I'm a bike racer. I do mountain biking, gravel riding, and so I love workers' comp. I love what I do, but that's like the other Megan. That's the other thing that I love. People are like, "What do you love to do?" That's it. So.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I can't imagine 66 miles. I've done a couple of marathons, and that was plenty. So.
Oh yeah, I was, sitting on the couch with some pizza and like crawling to the shower, like literally crawling to the shower after that was over.
I bet. Well, thank you very much for joining us on Gemini Live. I hope you have a great rest of your conference here, and you do well on your panel. So thank you.
Thanks so much.
All right.